Welcome everyone to Mail Fuzz TV. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation Season 6, Episode 7. It's called Rascals. So full spoilers for the episode, as always. This episode, Picard and a bunch of non-regular characters, and by non-regular I mean Ensign Ro, I mean Keiko, O'Brien's wife, and Guinan, have a bit of a transporter malfunction where when they come back onto the Enterprise, there's a bit of a crazy, it's like a little, like they're almost about to like implode in this little shuttle when it happens. But when they appear on the Enterprise, they are now about 11 or 12 years old. That's the premise of this episode.
You know, I remember back when we first started like this show, Next Gen specifically. Kind of we were warned about the oh my god, I'm blanking on the name. The
The what? Give me a hint to help you.
The room that creates things.
Oh, the holodeck.
The holodeck. Thank you. Oh my god, I'm tired. We were warned about the holodeck episodes, right? I feel like the transporter malfunctions have been a more recurring theme.
They're in the ballpark of each other. Yeah, it's maybe not like, I don't know if it's necessarily more transporter malfunctions, but they're definitely in the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they seem to happen a lot on this show.
And some of them are more silly than others.
This in the very end of it.
I don't know, the idea, I mean, I enjoyed the episode well enough, but the idea that Barclay's like conscious during it and he's like seeing beings floating around is, I don't know.
Also like, very silly, yeah.
Especially since when you compare that to like Scotty exists there without realizing he's there for 70 years, it's like, oh, how do these two things work exactly together? I don't. But anyway, you just roll with it. Crusher explains it later on with there's something that we all have. It's like another type of DNA, but it changes and it's part of growing up.
I think it is.
Yeah, and basically that was taken out of them, so it made them all de-age, which is kind of silly. Like no matter what you remove from a body, you don't magically de-age. But let's just roll with it for the premise of the episode. And it deals with the idea of like, how do they function, because they're still them internally, like their minds, they still remember who they are, they still have all their skills, they still have all of their knowledge, they're just kid-sized. And what's the follow through on that? And then of course halfway through the episode that kind of introduces like a threat and something that's kind of like, oh, it's actually convenient almost now that there's some officers that can operate under the guise that they're children, because all the adults are the ones that have been taken like away and imprisoned. So
yeah,
the kids are they can fight, they can slip through the cracks and save the day kind of thing. So that's the basic gist of the episode. We'll get into all the details, of course. Connor, what did you think of... No, actually, see, before you said, I know one of the main things you're going to complain about is all the dubbing on the kid actors.
Oh my god. Do you know what the worst part is? It's not even consistent between them.
Do you know what I get the impression of? I get the impression they cast these kids maybe based on their looks, and then for some reason, like 2 or 3 of them, they decided, you know what, we don't like the voices they've got, so we're going to get someone else to voice them.
It's bizarre, because 2 of them sound fine. One of them is, I'm pretty sure, dubbed with the regular actor, and maybe another voice on top layered over. There's something going on. And one of them is just dubbed completely with someone else. And it's so inconsistent. It is mind-boggling.
It is a little distracting, and I don't feel like I've ever said that this show has been distracting because of sound issues, but this dubbing is especially egregious, and for whatever reason, you know, whether or not the actors they cast for the visual part of the role, maybe they didn't like their voices, so they always knew they were going to dub them or something. I don't know what it was. But regardless, it has this end result where you do notice it quite a bit, and it gives them this weird disconnected thing, and it hurts the performances to the point where, regardless, I mean, you might have said they were shit anyway, but I do think the disconnect there does make things worse, where like I'm supposed to buy young Picard is like still Picard, and I like he was the one that I was struggling with the most because his voice is kind of shrill, and it's kind of just...
On top of that, it's not just that it's ADR'd and dubbed in by someone else, which it is, and it's not that it's not necessarily the voice you'd expect. compared to some of the others, which kind of fit more
Honestly,
reasonably, I would say.
it wouldn't have been realistic, but it would actually have been funnier probably if all of them just were voiced by their adult actors
It would have.
entirely. Yeah.
Do you know what the worst part about the Picard dubbing though is that it's just badly recorded. That I can just it's not even that it just doesn't match well. It's not that there's that disconnect when it doesn't line up 100% perfectly. It's just badly recorded dialogue.
That makes me think that this was not a planned thing, and it was like a last minute. Oh, we have to fix this and get something churned out quickly. That's what that makes me think.
Because it sounds like they just had they had the microphone turned up too much, and it's not good.
Yeah.
Whereas the others are better. Guinan, I'm pretty sure they've got Whoopi Goldberg still in there, and at least I don't know. Like, I don't know if they've just sped it up to make it higher pitched and kind of laid that on top, or if they've got the teenage actors doing their voice as well. But there's definitely like 2 layers to that voice going on, which is unique to the others.
Interesting.
But Ro and Keiko are kind of okay, to be honest.
From a sound perspective, it just sounds like the actors that's them performing, and that's what it is. So regardless of sound issues, then what did you think of the episode?
Well, I mean, I'm on record many times at this point because this show just keeps giving them to me as not enjoying the kids in general.
I had a decent time with it. I think it's one of the better kid episodes that the show's had.
I think on the scale of the kid episodes of the show, I would agree with that. Doesn't mean I really like it, though.
Young Picard popped me with one of the best jokes of the season so far.
I know exactly which one you're on about. Yeah.
So we'll talk about that. And I like the reactions of the others and some of that stuff in the first half. And the second half's fine. Like, when the Ferengi end up being the villains and like they're dealing with that.
Significantly less interesting, I think.
Yeah.
And there's just some weird leaps in logic in this episode that I found hard to get on board with. Like they're immediately just like, well, I guess we best learn to live with this. We might have to go through puberty all over again and grow up, and we'll just be really old. And I'm like, what? You've been like this for like 2 hours. Start looking at how to reverse it first.
Well, Crusher's looking into it, but they're concerned that this is such a weird thing, because it is a really weird thing. Even in the context of Star Trek, this is a weird thing to have happen to you.
It is, but the fact that they don't, there's no hope. Like, I know that there is, they're looking into it, but the characters don't play it like, it'll be fine.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll sort it out. They're immediately leaping to, this is it now. We're going to have to start making plans for the rest of my life again.
I did really like Picard still trying to be captain and walking onto the bridge and even saying, "Number 1, I'm with you," and he's giving out orders, and it's kind of awkward. Even Data's feeling weird about it, and like Worf's like not really sure if he should be following the orders or not. And Crusher comes to speak to him, and immediately Picard says, and this is young, kid Picard, is like, "Are you here to relieve me of duty?" And she's like, "Well, I'm not necessarily, I don't really want to force that issue, but you have to understand that even though you're still you technically inside, like it's difficult to take orders from a child, It
is, but again, this is another bit where I didn't really agree with her argument, because I understand that part, but she doesn't actually say it like that.
Sure.
She never says that. That is never actually addressed. What she says is, well, this could be just the first stage of something. Your mind could go next. And I feel like if that's your argument, the sensible thing to do is wait and see if any signs of that actually happen. And then when that happens, you can relieve them of duty. Whereas if you want to, be like, hey, look, we feel uncomfortable taking orders from a kid, just say that.
I think I see what you're saying. I do appreciate the idea of Picard relinquishing order, and it doesn't have to be forced. It doesn't have to be like, he understands on some level that this is too much of a hurdle, even to Starfleet, because you could argue that they know it's really him in there. He's still got all of experience. He's still Picard, but in the same way that they're accepting of other alien races, they're accepting of an android on the crew. Like, is it really that weird to one of them's been shrunk down to kid sized? But it does create this awkward thing. Also, the clothes conveniently shrank when they were turned into kids. I noticed that as well.
Which was even more bizarre, because then Picard's like, well, we'll have to have a word with the tailor. I'm like,
The rest,
yes, I know you for your other clothes, I'm assuming, but
the rest of his clothes are still because he puts on his fancy jacket later and it's too big for him. So clearly, it only affected the. I mean, which makes sense. If it affected the clothes that were in his closet, I'd really have some questions.
yeah.
But going by the logic of the show, that something was taken out of their DNA to turn them into kids. I'm like, why did that work in the clothes?
There's a lot of leaps in this episode that I just even down to the solution, where there's a point in the episode when Crusher's like, hey, we could try putting them through the transport, or, put this stuff back in. I got the prep, but we couldn't dare do that until we know what caused it first, so that we know it won't get any worse. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, they don't actually really figure it out. They just go, all right, well, Ferengi thing's solved now. Let's just put them through the transporter.
I can't remember the exact dialogue, but just before the Ferengi thing happens, Crusher does seem to think she solved it, and it's like they're getting ready to go and try it. And then the Ferengi thing happens, and that delays it till the end of the episode.
Right. So there's not really much to it.
But there is like a sort of sentiment that I think we're about to solve this halfway through, and then all the stuff happens, and they're in the crisis. So it didn't come as a surprise at the end. I don't remember the exact lead-in in that halfway point, but there was like a sort of sentiment of, we're about to fix this now, and it's just delayed because of everything else. So that's Picard, the young Picard's thing. Obviously, the other thing is that Troy comes to speak to him and asks him about him being frustrated, and he's like, "Well, what am I supposed to do? I'm a Starfleet captain." And she's like, "Well, you do need to like rest a bit more than you actually let yourself.
Go back to the academy, get another degree.
Spruce up in your Latin, I think, was the suggestion for that.
It was, yeah.
And young Picard responds with, "And roommate with Wesley Crusher."
Yep.
Even young Picard wants nothing to do with being Wesley's friend.
I wish the whoever was doing the voice could have added more derision into that.
Oh yes. He's a bit one though. He never really feels like he's Picard, even though yes, I'm assuming Patrick Stewart did have a very different voice when he was a kid.
Yes, but like I don't know, there's a weird bit also really on where he says, "I am Captain Picard."
Oh yeah, he says it weird. Yeah, I noticed that the pronunciation of Picard was off for him. Like other characters have said it that way, and it's fine. That's how they say it. But
and I don't think he's consistently gets it wrong. But it's in that moment where he's trying to prove it to the crew on the bridge.
It's immediately a disconnect because you don't sound like Picard now.
Yeah. So you're saying your own name wrong.
Yeah, that's fun. I thought this was Riker based on the image, because when I was looking last time we recorded, I was guessing
it was the hair, wasn't it?
It was the hair, yeah. And actually, it's funny when he turns back into like Patrick Stewart at the end. One of the first things he does is he touches his head, and he's like, yes,
God.
Smooth." I enjoyed the Wesley Crusher dig immensely. I laughed quite a lot at that. I have to say that was a good line.
Probably the highlight of the episode.
So naturally, with one of them being Keiko, there's actually, I think maybe for the first time this season, there's a serious amount of Brian in this episode. He always got a lot of stuff. He's investigating what went wrong, why the shuttle imploded, all the rest of it. But there's a great, slightly gross in a way, but great scene where
it's probably my favorite scene of the episode.
Well, because this is like the awkward thing, because like Picard's a single man, Guinan's like pretty solitary in terms of like romantic stuff, and
she is very secure in what the hell's going on right now. And
Ensign Ro, of course, is kind of a loner as well. So you cut to like O'Brien sitting in his quarters, and Keiko's like sitting next to him, and she's like just saying, "Do you want some coffee?" Or he says that because he gets nervous and uncomfortable. But when she's bringing the coffee back, he starts talking to her like she's a kid, where he's like, "Now be careful with that," as if he's talking to a child.
And the whole time he is sat as close to the edge of that chair as possible.
Oh, he is so uncomfortable. And then of course the stand up is like, "Miles, I'm still your wife," and he's like, "Well, technically."
Yes, very brave.
And she like grabs him by the collar, and I'm like, I you know what, I actually, that's maybe the most believable one, because I believe she's an angry wife right now. Like I believe she's going to kill him for phrasing it this way. But I mean, she has to understand all of like because she says at one point, like, what if I'm stuck this way and they don't fix it and I have to like grow up again? Like, I mean, his response should be, well, we're going to have to wait a good decade before we return to certain things. because this is weird and creepy. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
So, this was like a scene that was just encapsulating the fun side of what a lot of this like could be, right? The awkwardness and like, okay, what does this mean now for them in this situation? I had fun with that sequence,
and I think it's a shame that they get this scene, but Keiko probably gets the least out of all the rest of them.
Yeah, there's not much more after this for sure. Yeah, because Ro and Gainer are together quite a bit when they're kids.
Yeah,
and Ro hates the idea of being a kid again. Her childhood was not pleasant. She was in like a camp and things like that. Was not a cheery memory for her. Whereas Gainer's like, oh, it's been like 700 years since I was a child. I'm ready to relive my childhood.
Most of it.
Yeah. And the arc is pretty straightforward here. By the end, Ro does kind of warm up to the idea of like, oh, maybe she can have a bit of a happy childhood. And there's an implication at the end that she is obviously going to be herself again, but she's going to maybe delay it for an hour and like play with some crayons. Just to
some drawings.
Yeah, they jump in a bed at one point. The sad part about this as well, I get the arc that they're trying to do where she sort of like learns to embrace a childhood that she never had, which it's a really on the nose writing thing that a lot of TV writing likes to do, that sort of plot. I will say that the most fun I had with young Ro was right at the start when she's just as like snappy and biting and like miserable as she usually is.
Is it when she's like relieved of duty? What the hell am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah, like because it felt like her. And then the more we went into this plot, the less it felt like Ro and the more it just felt like a kid.
Yeah.
So,
which wasn't really the point of what was supposed to be happening with them.
Yeah, so it's like, I guess to sum up my feelings on the episode is I think it's relatively entertaining and there's lots of good parts to it, but there's also a lot of things that don't quite add up. And, I think by the end you're kind of in, decent, but there's a lot of things that stop it from being outright good or certainly great anyway. So, that's kind of where
I probably enjoyed it less than you, but that's my inherent bias coming in.
Yes.
But it's not as terrible as some of the other kid episodes. I will definitely give it that. Like compared to that imaginary friend one that we had last.
Oh yes.
Yeah, like night and day difference.
Yeah, but Tommy's first girlfriend from Third Rock from the Sun. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's the one.
So yeah, halfway through the episode, some Klingon ships like show up.
All right. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
It's Klingon ships.
They are, yes.
Because for a minute you're thinking, why are the Klingons attacking them? And then like Ferengi show up on the ship, and it's like, they do like to buy things on the black market. They've bought themselves some Klingon ships, like some birds of prey. So that makes sense. And basically they want to take in the Enterprise. They hold everyone at gunpoint.
They're basically Ferengi pirates.
Yeah, the pirates. Because at the end, when the everything's been solved, there's a mention that the Ferengi, like, I don't know if government's the right word, but the Ferengi, the like regime,
Federation.
Yeah, they are like not acknowledging this happened. Like they're denying any existence of these pirates.
They disavowed them. Yeah. So it's like, no, they're not with us, not at all.
But yeah, they take over everyone. They keep Riker on the bridge because they want him to turn the computer back on, but because he turns it off when they're taking control. But everyone else is beamed down to a planet because they're basically kidnapping adults to mine minerals from this planet for them because it's valuable. So they're effectively stealing people and making them their slaves. That is what the Ferengi are doing in this episode. It's actually quite a dark story when you stop and think about it for a few seconds.
But don't think about it because we've got to have some kids die hard their way out of it.
Honestly, I think they could have done more with the kids die hard on their way out of it, to be honest. I felt like there was more potential here.
They'll rope in the other kids lying around. Like, hey, Alexander's a regular kid. Let's get him on there.
I actually did appreciate him being around and like that area where the kids were, because this show sometimes it'll just like some characters will disappear for a long time, and that's okay. You understand why, but it is kind of nice in moments like this where Alexander's not really that important to the plot. He has like one interaction with Picard, really, but it's just nice that he's there because we know he's a kid that we should expect to see in this age range. Yeah. So. Yeah, so they trick the Ferengi. Picard has to actually act like a kid to like annoy a Ferengi at one point.
Yes, and then pretend that Riker's his dad.
Which I appreciated because I know, like, Picard in that moment, I assume just like, okay, what would piss me off? So
yeah, he clearly hated it.
Yes, and then I enjoy as well when he's talking to Riker and they're pretending to be father and son because the Ferengi's standing right there. he calls him number one by accident, and then goes, "He's my number one dad."
And then they do another hug.
Yes.
with the smile. Yeah, it's so awkward.
Yeah, some of that stuff's pretty fun. That's entertaining.
Yeah, it's fine.
Connor's not as into it. Okay, fine. You know what? I tried. So naturally, eventually the kids get a bunch of phasers working and go around and take out the Ferengi. All set to stun, of course, because they're not murderers.
Yeah, they do a thing where they transport them to the transport room, but then put like a weapons lock on so they can't leave the transport pad.
Yeah.
They're just like, here, give them, slap the badges on them so that they just transport.
Yeah, and Riker has to like get the computer in the kids section, because I loved that scene actually. Young Picard's trying to get the computer to do stuff, and like one of the others is like, Picard, it's the kid's computer, it's not going to do anything proper, and like the computer would just randomly say, yes, the Enterprise does this. Do you know how to spell Enterprise? And I start trying to teach them how to spell. I'm like, this is the kids like software that's on this. This is not the main computer.
Picard gets sick of that shit real quick.
Oh yeah, he mutes the audio. He's like, God,
he doesn't just mute audio; he deletes the audio.
He's like, no child shall ever have to listen to this again. I have foretold it. So there's, that's the thing. There's all these little entertaining beats throughout, but there is definitely a lot of the logic and stuff that doesn't add up when you actually stop and think about any of it. Especially when you compare them to other transporter malfunctions. Like, see if they just said there was a malfunction in the transporter, some anomaly caused it, but instead of taking like DNA or something away from them or something akin to that made them smaller, just say it, just treat it like Honey I Shrunk the Kids. No, something get in that affected size and shrank them. Admittedly, it wouldn't be kids in that case; they would be just miniature versions of themselves. But I don't know. Like, I feel like there's probably there was an easier like fake thing to swallow than this was probably.
Probably, yeah.
But that's not like it's a bad time. Like, there's definitely. I don't think it's going to be in contention for the worst of this. I mean, unless the season is like so good that
I'm going to be the most positive I've said about this episode. I'm going to be now, where I hope it's in contention for the rest of the season.
Sure, because that means the standard's so high that there's no outright stinkers. Because this is not a stinker.
No, this is far, far, far from the worst episode of this show.
Yes, absolutely.
And like I said, I hope this is the worst episode of the season. That would be great. It's not going to be, but if only it was.
No, it would be nice if it was, but it won't be. So, yeah, it was a decent time. Like, there's some chuckles to be had. But some of the kid dubbing, some of the logic, not everything quite adds up. But hey, not the worst time ever. Definitely, it's actually only 0.1 less than last week's episode, and I definitely like True Q quite a bit more. So
that was significantly better than this one.
Yeah. So cool. All right, next up then. Let's have a look at what's next week. A Fistful of Datas is the title.
So it's a Western, right?
Probably on the holodeck.
Wait, is it holodeck?
It's probably a holodeck.
After I just said that.
Well, let me read it and we'll find out perhaps. But I mean, my guess would be it's the holodeck. See, this is the difference. Like back in the original show, they would find a planet that would just conveniently look like a Western, even though like why would there be like these exact conditions on another planet?
Time travel.
But that's what they did in the original series. Whereas in Next Gen, when they want to do something like this, holodeck. So here we go. While the crew is experiencing some much-needed downtime, Worf and his son go on an Old West excursion in the holodeck, where they meet several versions of Data serving as the bad guy after an experiment in engineering goes wrong. Oh, it's a bunch of evil Datas.
I can just imagine Worf as the man with no name.
Yeah, very no-nonsense.
Please give him the poncho.
I wonder, like, is this Worf's idea, or is it Alexander who's like seen some Western stuff and wants to do it?
Definitely that. But I want Worf. I want him to force Worf to wear the poncho and play the part.
I will tell you this: there's a photo here. One of the first 4 photos is Worf. He's still in his Starfleet uniform, but he has a cowboy hat on and he's doing like a finger gun. And
that's progress. I could have fun with this.
It's made me excited for the potential of Cowboy Worf.
I could get behind that.
Yeah, all right. Well,
that's the kind of stupid I want from this show.
Oh, sure. Like I'm in. Like you don't have to. like convinced me at this point. I'm in. So cool stuff. But yes, that is what's coming next time from Star Trek: The Next Generation here. We also, of course, are counting down episodes now at this point until the start of Deep Space Nine.
What, 4 or 5 left?
4, I think. Yeah, I think 8, 9, 10, 11, and then I think it's Deep Space Nine time.
Right, yeah. I just couldn't remember which one this was.
Yeah. We just had 7, so this is coming up, to episode 8. So yeah, we will see you next time. Let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments below. Like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, all that stuff. And of course, you can go over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and support us for as little as $1 per month. Things on offer include bonus episodes of some of our movie podcasts. You get early access to some stuff, including these Star Trek reviews. So go and have a look and see if you're interested. But otherwise, that's us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek. And somewhere out there, Wesley Crusher is not rooming with one Jean-Luc Picard.